December 16, 2017. The front page of the New York Times carried a story that the United States government had been officially denying for nearly 50 years. The Pentagon had a secret program. It had been investigating UFOs. It had been doing so with tens of millions of taxpayer dollars. It had videos, real, authenticated footage from U.S. Navy fighter jets, showing objects performing maneuvers that no known aircraft can perform. The program had a name: the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP. The man who ran it had just resigned. His name is Luis Elizondo. In his resignation letter to the Secretary of Defense, he wrote that the program was being actively suppressed within the Pentagon. That internal bureaucratic resistance was preventing the United States from properly addressing what he described as a serious national security threat. He had run the program for 10 years. He quit because he believed the Pentagon was not taking the phenomenon seriously enough. That letter is on the record. The program existed. The videos are real. The Pentagon confirmed all of it. What the Pentagon has never confirmed is what it knows and isn't saying. That is what this documentary is about. The United States government's official position on UFOs from 1969 until 2017 was simple: there is nothing to investigate. That position was established when the Air Force terminated Project Blue Book on December 17, 1969. Blue Book had run for 17 years. It investigated 12,618 reported sightings. Its final conclusion: no UFO had ever represented a threat to national security, and none had demonstrated technology beyond the range of current science. What happened after 1969, for the next 40 years, was officially nothing. No program, no investigation, no budget, no files. That is the official record. What the official record does not explain is why, in 2007, the Defense Intelligence Agency quietly authorized a new program with a $22 million budget to investigate exactly the same phenomenon that had officially not existed for 4 decades. The program was called AAWSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program. It was classified. It was funded through a Pentagon black budget line item. It was operated in part through a private aerospace company called Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, owned by Nevada real estate developer Robert Bigelow, who had long-standing connections to UFO research. The contract was awarded at the direction of Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada. None of this was public. None of this was disclosed to most of Congress. It ran from 2007 to 2012, when the official funding ended. A smaller successor program, AATIP, continued in some form under Elizondo until 2017. 40 years of official silence. Then a secret program that the public wasn't told about for another decade after that. The question is not whether the government was investigating. It clearly was. The question is what it found. There are 3 videos. They are now publicly available on the Pentagon's own website. They are labeled FLIR-1, Gimbal, and Go Fast. They were filmed by U.S. Navy pilots using forward-looking infrared targeting cameras between 2004 and 2015. FLIR-1 was recorded on November 14, 2004, during exercises off the California coast involving the USS Nimitz carrier strike group. The object in the footage, known as the Tic Tac, was tracked on ship radar for 2 weeks before the visual encounter. Commander David Fravor, a decorated Navy pilot with 18 years of service, intercepted it. He described an object approximately 40 feet long, white, with no wings, no exhaust, no visible propulsion system. It descended from 80,000 feet to sea level in seconds. When Fravor moved toward it, it accelerated away and disappeared. It reappeared 60 miles away, in under a minute. Gimbal and Go Fast were recorded in 2015 off the East Coast by pilots from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. In Gimbal, the object rotates against the wind while moving at speed, behavior that should be aerodynamically impossible for any conventional aircraft. In Go Fast, the object skims over the ocean surface at extraordinary speed, with no visible wake, no heat signature consistent with conventional propulsion. All 3 videos were leaked in 2017. The Pentagon spent 3 years refusing to confirm or deny their authenticity. On April 27, 2020, 3 years after public release, the Pentagon officially confirmed the videos were real, unclassified, authentic, unresolved. 3 years to confirm what their own cameras recorded. In April 2022, 5 years after the videos were leaked and 2 years after the Pentagon confirmed them, the Defense Intelligence Agency released 1,574 pages of AATIP documents in response to a Freedom of Information Act request. The documents had been withheld for a decade. What they contain is not what most people expected. Buried within the 1,574 pages is a report titled Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human and Biological Tissues, dated March 2010, prepared for the Defense Intelligence Agency. The report documents 42 cases from medical files where human observers reported physical injuries following encounters with what the document calls anomalous advanced aerospace systems. 300 additional unpublished cases are referenced. The injuries described include radiation burns, damage to the nervous system, and effects on human biological tissue consistent with exposure to electromagnetic fields of unknown origin. The report's conclusion: there is, in its exact words, sufficient evidence to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque to full U.S. understanding. Advanced systems, already deployed, opaque to full U.S. understanding. That phrase was written by analysts employed by the Defense Intelligence Agency of the United States government and classified for 12 years. The report is public. The DIA reference number is DIA-08-1003. It is available through the Defense Intelligence Agency's FOIA reading room. Anyone can read it. In June 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a preliminary assessment on unidentified aerial phenomena. It was 9 pages. It reviewed 144 UAP reports from U.S. government sources between 2004 and 2021. Of those 144 cases, 1 was explained. 143 remained unresolved. The report noted that some UAP appeared to demonstrate, in its language, advanced technology. It also acknowledged something that had not previously appeared in any official U.S. government document, that UAP reports carry a stigma within military culture that actively discourages personnel from filing them. That stigma is a documented, acknowledged policy problem. Pilots were not reporting what they saw because they feared the professional consequences. The data the government was collecting was already a fraction of what was actually being observed. In July 2022, the Pentagon established the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, as a permanent body to investigate UAP. For the first time in American history, there was a permanent, congressionally mandated office whose explicit function was to determine what these objects are. AARO Director Sean Kirkpatrick testified before Congress multiple times. In April 2023, he presented a new video, infrared footage from a drone in the Middle East, showing a small metallic spherical object moving through restricted airspace at speed. His description: it resembled a small metallic orb. He could not identify it. The director of the Pentagon's official UAP investigation office presented footage of an unidentified object to the United States Senate and stated he did not know what it was. That is where the public record stands. In August 2023, the Pentagon launched a dedicated public website, arrow.mil, described as a one-stop shop for declassified UAP information. The Pentagon press secretary called it evidence of the department's commitment to transparency. On the day it launched, the website contained a handful of videos and brief descriptions. 6 members of Congress had written to the Intelligence Community Inspector General 4 days earlier, demanding details about alleged secret programs to retrieve and reverse engineer crashed, unidentified objects. Their letter referenced testimony given under oath by David Grush 3 weeks prior. Testimony in which Grush stated the government has possessed non-human craft and biologics since the 1930s and knows the exact locations where they are currently held. The Pentagon website did not address this claim. It has not addressed it since. The AARO Historical Record Report, released in March 2024, reviewed decades of alleged government UAP programs. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Christopher Mellon, a man who spent years at the highest levels of defense intelligence, publicly characterized the report as the most error-ridden government document he had encountered in his career. He stated it omitted entire agencies, excluded any discussion of efforts to conceal UAP information, and was the first AARO report ever submitted to Congress without the Director of National Intelligence's signature. The report that was supposed to provide a definitive accounting instead produced more questions than it answered. As of March 2026, AARO has not submitted its required 2025 annual report to Congress. The second volume of the Historical Record Report has not been released. President Trump pledged in February 2026 to direct release of UFO files. No specific documents have been identified, no timeline has been set, no responsible official has been named. The files have not been released. In the course of producing this documentary, we were able to locate one individual willing to speak on record. His name is Dr. Marcus Webb, former senior analyst, Defense Intelligence Agency, 2004 to 2016. He worked on programs adjacent to AATIP during the period of its active operation. He reviewed technical assessments produced by contractors under the AAWSAP contract. He left the DIA in 2016, 1 year before the program became public. He agreed to speak under 2 conditions: that we do not identify the specific programs he worked on beyond what is already in the public record, and that we not name his current employer. We agreed. He has not spoken publicly before. He is speaking now, he says, because the 1,574 pages released by the DIA in 2022 confirmed publicly what he had spent years believing nobody outside the program knew. He wants the public to understand what those pages actually say, and what they don't say. What follows is his account, unedited, unabridged, in his own words.
The thing I want people to understand is that the resistance was never about whether the phenomenon was real. That debate, inside the building, was over years before the public knew the program existed. The resistance was about what acknowledging it publicly would require the institution to admit. If you formally acknowledge that there are objects operating in U.S. airspace that you cannot identify, cannot intercept, and cannot explain, objects that have been operating there for at least 6 decades based on the case files, you have to answer for why you didn't tell anyone. You have to answer for the gap between 1969 and 2007. You have to explain what happened to the reporting systems, the witnesses, the documentation. You have to explain 40 years of official denial during which, based on the evidence that program produced, the phenomenon continued uninterrupted. That is not a comfortable set of answers for any institution to provide. The 1,574 pages that came out in 2022, I want to be precise about what's in them and what isn't. What's in them is real. The biological effects reports are real. The assessments are real. The language about advanced systems already deployed reflects a genuine analytical conclusion reached by people with serious credentials using the best data they had access to. What's not in them is the classified material. The documents released through FOIA are by definition the documents someone decided could be released. The documents that were withheld, some of which are referenced in what was released, cited but not included, are the ones that presumably say more. I'm not going to tell you what's in those documents. I don't have them anymore, and I couldn't discuss them if I did. What I will tell you is that the material that was released publicly represents a fraction of what was produced under those programs. The fraction that someone decided the public could handle. That is a judgment call made by people inside the institution. Not by Congress, not by the courts, by people inside the institution about what the public is allowed to know about a phenomenon that is occurring in public airspace. I found that troubling then. I find it more troubling now. The 3 videos, FLIR1, Gimbal, Go Fast, are remarkable not because of what they show, but because of what their release required. Those videos were authenticated by the U.S. Navy. They were confirmed by the Pentagon. They have been watched by hundreds of millions of people. And the official position remains. We don't know what they are. Think about what that means structurally. The most sophisticated military in human history, with the largest intelligence apparatus ever assembled, operating the most advanced sensor systems on Earth. And the official answer is, we don't know. That answer has 2 possible meanings. Either it's true, and the most powerful intelligence apparatus in history genuinely cannot identify objects operating in its own airspace, or it's a managed answer. A position that is technically defensible without being fully honest. I'm not telling you which of those is correct. I genuinely don't know what the complete picture looks like. I saw a portion of it from a specific vantage point during a specific period. What I saw was enough to convince me that the public accounting to date is incomplete. The biological effects report alone, the one that's publicly available, DIA reference DIA-08-1003, describes 42 documented cases of people being physically harmed by encounters with these objects. Radiation effects, neurological effects, physical injuries documented in medical files. That report sat in a classified archive for 12 years. If this phenomenon were being caused by a foreign adversary, Russia, China, anyone, that information would not be classified for 12 years. It would be the basis for a national security response. The classification of that material is itself a data point about how this is being handled inside the institution. I'll leave it at that. The documents are public. You can read them. I'd encourage you to.
The public record on Pentagon UAP investigation now spans multiple decades and multiple institutional formats. Project Blue Book files, all 130,000 pages of them, were declassified and are available at the National Archives. The 30% of cases that remained unexplained after 17 years of official investigation are in those files. The AATIP and AWSAP documents released in April 2022, 1,574 pages, are available through the Defense Intelligence Agency's FOIA reading room at dia.mil. The Biological Effects Report is document reference DIA-08-1003. It is not behind a paywall. It requires no special access. It is simply there, waiting to be read. The June 2021 ODNI preliminary assessment is at dni.gov, 9 pages. 143 unresolved cases out of 144. The Pentagon's AARO website launched in August 2023 at aaro.mil. It contains the 3 confirmed Navy videos and a small number of additional cases. The director of AARO described the site as representing everything that has been cleared for public release. The phrase "cleared for public release" is doing a significant amount of work in that sentence. In September 2023, the House Oversight Committee's UAP subcommittee requested a classified briefing from AARO. Multiple members who received that briefing subsequently stated publicly that the information they received raised more questions than it answered. Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee stated that in his assessment, the government has information it is not sharing with the American people. That statement was made by a sitting member of the House Oversight Committee after a classified briefing on the subject. The UAP Transparency Act, H.R. 1187, was introduced in February 2025. It has not been voted on. The AARO-FY 2025 annual report, required by statute, has not been submitted. The second volume of the Historical Record Report has not been released. Here is what is documented. Here is what is public. Here is what requires no interpretation. The Pentagon ran a secret UFO program for a decade and did not tell Congress or the public it existed. The program's director resigned in protest, citing internal suppression of the investigation. 3 authenticated videos from U.S. Navy aircraft show objects that the Pentagon cannot identify and has never explained. A classified DIA report documented 42 cases of people physically harmed by encounters with unidentified objects. And that report sat in a classified archive for 12 years. 143 out of 144 official government UAP reports remain unresolved. A sitting member of the House Oversight Committee, after a classified briefing, stated publicly that the government is withholding information from the American people. All of this is sourced. All of it is documented. All of it is available. Project Blue Book files, archives.gov, AATIPFOIA documents, DIA-08-1003, DIA.MIL, ODNIUAP preliminary assessment, DNI.gov, Pentagon AARO declassified videos, Arrow.mil, UAP Transparency Act, H.R. 1187, Congress.gov. Anyone can read them. Draw your own conclusions.